Here you quickly see that the final result of the distribution of the different programs, and I thought it was very brave from the housing corporation the way they in the end decided to place the social rent and the non-social rent within the building. One of the things we always emphasize is that we didn't want to make a differentiation between the expensive apartments and the cheap apartments. We didn't want to make a differentiation between handicapped apartments. We really want to have the idea that everybody, no matter what social standard or what physical stage he's in, they would belong to one building, that they really could identify with one thing. So you can see in brown, these are the apartments and the collective spaces of the handicapped teenagers, and in light green are the social sector apartments, and then dark green are the free sector apartments. And then you have what you have very often in the Netherlands, the storage spaces for the people where they keep their bicycles, for example, on ground floor. In the Netherlands, we hardly build with basements because it's very expensive, and also all the parking here was sold around the building. Next. Oh, one back still. I think one of the important organizational features that we introduced was the corridor that is going around the whole building. And we kind of flipped the corridor twice towards the inside of the building, where we would have a better orientation for the apartments. So all the apartments on the lower part and the upper part are really only orientated towards the courtyard, except for a few small windows. Meanwhile, the apartments, and you can see that on the next floor, the apartments to the north and the south have really a double orientation. And there's one special feature, especially for the apartments on the northern side, is that because the facade is actually cut open to the north, we introduced a very deep corridor towards the inside of the block, so people can have actually a front door terrace, kind of veranda, let's say, in front of their house. If you go one back still, we had two major entrances. That's the one here in the south, down there, exactly, and the other one top, on the other side, up there, exactly. These are the two main entrances for all the tenants. And then we had an extra entrance for the handicapped people that come in with electrical wheelchairs. That's here. Slowly getting there. This is the entrance for it. And one of the important things to us was that all the access areas where the elevators were, throughout the geometry, always created kind of a buffer space. We tried to keep them airy. Our client at the beginning really wanted to make everything apartments. We said no, especially where the communal access areas are. Please leave the building with a bit of air inside, so you can really make more interesting spaces for the movement of the people throughout the building. We could show you that later in some images. Next. As the building develops upwards, it shows you also again the distribution of the different apartments. Next. And then slowly we cut away the volume, and the roof begins to introduce actually itself as the fifth facade. For us, it was also very important that especially these apartments that are on the southwestern part have a nice view into the landscape that you see far away. So that was a real important issue for us, that it was not just a chopped off block, but it would have a real dynamic character, that not only the floor plan itself is dynamic, but also the roof section is very dynamic. And it also helped us to introduce special outside spaces. The students already showed us. I think that's a very important issue, that you give high quality balconies or terraces or loggias to even social housing. I think it's a very, very important thing. So to not only emphasize the collective idea, but also to give areas of retreat for the people themselves to express themselves. And you can see that later on in the images as well. Next. One of the other advantages of the inclining roof line is that actually all the apartments under the roof have extra height. So you're not kind of limited the whole time to the normal typical seating. And throughout that, actually from the 79 apartments that we have, we in the end had 30 different apartment types. So although there's a lot of repetition in terms of the construction, basically you have a large variety of different apartments in the building. Next. Next. Here you can see actually what I was just described in section. So you have a few apartments that have direct access to a roof terrace, and then you have a lot of apartments that really have an extra height that give an extra feeling of luxury to the apartments. Next. Then I want to take you for a small visit there. I was very impressed of the rendering of the students with the cars passing by, because it's very, very busy road. It's really not a pleasant place to be. And in that sense, the building really established a kind of barrier towards the sound, and it creates a quiet courtyard to the back of it. One thing that we always discussed in the office, and that I think in the end is very important, is how much space do you give the people to express themselves, and where do you do that? I think for us it was very important that especially the balconies are really a kind of empty canvas where they can really do their own thing. And I really like that it's becoming a mess. So for me that's a very positive thing. Next. At the same time, we wanted to give the building a really strong identity, and to give it also a kind of practical text, nearly a textile quality. And at the same time, we were faced with a budget that was ridiculously low. We built this building under 800 euros per square meter. So that's, I still don't know how we managed it. It's very, I think the strategy that we use is that we took away a lot of money from certain areas and made it really, really cheap. For example, the yellow wall that you see, it's one of the cheapest building materials that we can find at the moment, but we can still customize with the color. So we ourselves could decide which color to use. And at the same time, also all the construction behind it is just exposed concrete, so it's no finishes. All the steel work is only galvanized most of the time, it's not even coated. And so we were able to push to certain areas the necessary amount of quality and money to make it an interesting building. And I think it's a very typical Dutch strategy, because we're always dealing with very low budgets. How can you use it? How do you shift your budgets? How do you deal with materials to make something special, something that people would remember? Next. Here you see the garden of the handicapped people. I personally am a bit disappointed, because we didn't have a commission from the client to design the garden. They took a landscape architect who tried to do his best, but was also in the end not really able to get a decent budget to do what he can do. So he really emphasized on the garden for the handicapped people. But I think, especially for the competition, I think it's a very important thing that there is a budget for public greenery or collective greenery, that it really can create a sense of collectivity. Next.